yesterday, and Minister in the Presidency, Mondli Gongubele, is going to be addressing you. Without any waste of time, over to you, Minister.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Probably, let me say good morning, ladies and gentlemen, South African media, and thank you for your attendance to actually assist us to communicate with the people of our country. Lest I forget, I must first say, I wish you a happy Christmas and a wonderful New Year, lest I forget. On the International Anti-Corruption Day, ladies and gentlemen, when the cabinet met, we took a view to join, in South Africa, to join the rest of the world in commemorating International Anti-Corruption Day on Thursday, 9 December 2021, under the theme Open Quote, a corruption-free future starts today. It starts with me, close quote. The United Nations theme for 2021 International Anti-Corruption Day is, open quote, your right, your role, say no to corruption, close quote. Those are catchy phrases against this scourge of humanity. Corruption, whether large or small, remains one of the greatest challenges facing the country and holds back economic growth and social development. Cabinet remains encouraged that the justice system continues to take decisive steps to bring those who are found to have been involved in acts of corruption to account. The Commission of Inquiry into allegations of state capture, corruption, and fraud in the public sector, including organs of state, is scheduled to submit its final report to President Cyril Ramaphosa on Saturday, 1st January 2022. Watch the space. Cabinet anticipates that in addition to exposing the perpetrators of corruption, this report will also provide us with proposal to strengthen our system to prevent corruption. As part of our ongoing fight against corruption, the Special Investigation Unit instituted a number of cases in the High Court and Special Tribunal, and the following are pending as at 31st March 2021. 56 cases in the High Court, which involves contracts in the amount of 62 billion. 64 cases in the Special Tribunal, which involves contracts in the amount of 6.99 billion. The amounts of values are the contractual amounts which were irregularly and unlawfully awarded by the state institutions and which form the subject of the litigation by the SIU. In the final year, 2021-2022, the SIU has already frozen pension benefits of former civil servants, bank accounts and assets of individuals, and business amounting to more than 43 billion. The President has signed a total of 9 SIU proclamations in the final year under review. That's the progress in as far as the state dealing with corruption. Cabinet reiterates that the success of our fight against corruption depends on the involvement of all people in South Africa. If you see something, say something, report corruption by dialing the National Anti-Corruption Hotline on 0800 701 701. Cabinet reaffirmed its commitment to protect whistleblowers and applauded the bravery of the honest public servants who expose fraud and corruption, at times at the risk of their livelihood and lives. In other words, this is one area we are convinced we may need to improve our vigilance in as far as the safety of these individuals. 2, on the rapid increase in coronavirus disease infections, Cabinet noted the rapid increase in COVID-19 infections in various parts of South Africa and urged all people in the country to take stronger action to fight back against disease and its variants. Our COVID-19 infections recorded in the last 24 hours stands at 19,842, which translates into 26.8% positivity rate. We have also lost 36 people to COVID-19 related complications in the last 24 hours. Vaccination does not only help us fight back against the deadly pandemic by preventing serious illnesses, hospitalization, or even death, but it also reduces the health risk posed by future variants. We must continue adhering to the non-pharmaceutical prevention measures of wearing a mask that covers our mouth and nose, maintaining social distancing, and regularly washing our hands with soap and water or using a 70 alcohol-based hand sanitizer. We can also prevent the spread of the virus by avoiding super spreader events such as festivals and parties. Together we can fight back by being responsible and always acting in the best interests of protecting the health of our loved ones and our nation against COVID-19. Cabinet joined President Ramaphosa in applauding our scientists for having alerted the world about the Omicron variant that has been spreading around the world. Cabinet continues to support calls for the immediate lifting of unfair travel bans imposed on our country, and in particular Southern Africa. On the Vuma Vaccination Week, we've administered a total of 26,781,642 vaccine doses to date. During the extended Vuma Vaccination Week campaign from 3 to 10 December 2021, thousands of people are being vaccinated at various vaccination sites that are open throughout the country. Cabinet has urged people aged 12 and older to vaccinate without delay. Keep yourself and your loved ones safe this festive season by simply going to your nearest vaccination site, even without an appointment, to be registered and vaccinated for free. The health benefits of being vaccinated include a much lower risk of hospitalization after being infected with COVID-19. Cabinet encouraged all people in South Africa to respond to the clarion call to vaccinate because statistics show that the majority of people being admitted in hospital are those who have not vaccinated. On the quarterly labor force survey, government remains resolute in addressing unemployment as one of the major challenges facing the country. State South Africa recent survey results, which showed 0.5% point increase in the unemployment rate from 34.4% in the second quarter to 34.9% in the third quarter, is quite disturbing. Government continues in its target-driven work to restore business confidence by addressing structural reforms or structural constraints to economic growth, job creation, and poverty eradication. Through specific interventions such as large investment in infrastructure, it is working to support structural transformation, economic growth, and job creation. And in the infrastructure, we have committed no less than 340 billion thus far. Through the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, government continues to support local production, including the revival of South Africa's manufacturing industry. The annual South Africa Investment Conference, commonly referred to as SAIC, continues to attract potential investors. Since its inaugural conference in 2018, the SAIC has so far secured more than 770 billion in investment commitments across a wide range of economic sectors. Cabinet remains committed to working with sectors to address the triple challenge of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. Government will do whatever is possible to create a conducive environment for investment in the country. It will also drive economic transformation to enable greater economic opportunities to the previously disadvantaged groups. On the presidential four-nation visit to West Africa, President Ramaphosa recently led a delegation of ministers and business leaders with view to grow economic relations and people-to-people interaction between South Africa and Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Senegal, where no less than 14 trade agreements were signed. This four-nation visit from 30 November to 7 December 2021 reinforced South Africa's bilateral relations to strengthen partnership directed at African development and cooperation in multilateral forums. South Africa and the partner states explored ways to leverage the opportunities presented by the African Continental Free Trade Area for mutual benefit, and with greater support for businesses conducting intra-Africa trade and investment. On the 16 days of activism, no violence against women and children. As the 16 days of activism for No Violence Against Women and Children campaign draws to an end, for the purpose of a particular phase of this program, which is a whole year event, it remains a disturbing reality that more still needs to be done to eradicate gender-based violence in femicide in our society, I beg your pardon. Many harrowing GBV-related stories, including the loss of lives, have been reported during this period and throughout the entire extended 365 days of activism campaign. We are failing as a nation when the cries of most vulnerable in our society remain unheard or ignored. The irresponsible societal norms which validate the violent behavior of men and the tendency to victimize women who break their silence must stop. Cabinet appealed to everyone, especially men, to take stand and play an active role in ending the scourge of violence against women and children. Men must lead by speaking out against GBVF and reporting it to law enforcement agents. They must also raise awareness and engage in peer education and efforts to prevent GBVF. In order to improve our response to sexual offenses, gender-based violence, government has 106 sexual offenses courts and now moving to the introduction of statutory sexual offenses courts. In February 2020, Section 55A of the Criminal Law, Sexual Offenses and Related Matters Amendment Act was signed into operation, meaning that for the first time, sexual offenses court will now be established in accordance with the statutes. Section 55A of the Act empowers the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services to designate not only a selected regional courts, but also any division of the High Court as a sexual offense court. Cabinet urged all sectors of society to collaborate with government to create safer communities and protect victims of abuse. It will only change if we all act, and the time to act is now. On the Cabinet decision, ladies and gentlemen, on the extension of the national state of disaster, Cabinet approved a recommendation by the National Coronavirus Command Council to further extend the national state of disaster to 15 January 2022 in terms of Section 27, subsection 5, paragraph C of the Disaster Management Act 2002, Act 57 of 2002. The national state of disaster is aimed at responding to the special circumstances presented by the COVID-19 pandemic. On the festive season, safety, while most of us will be taking a well-deserved festive break, we must remember that COVID-19 does not take a holiday. A safe holiday period for you and your loved ones can be guaranteed by a simple jab at your nearest vaccination site. Cabinet calls on everyone to continue to be vigilant and avoid large social gatherings. Together we can make the festive season a joyous and a safe one for everyone by not drinking and driving. We must obey all the rules of the road, including driving within the legal speed limits. Let us all make an effort to arrive alive. Cabinet called on parents and caregivers to be extra vigilant with the children in their care, especially at pools, beaches, or near water. To ensure a safe festive season, be alert at all times when on holiday or during leisure moments. Report any suspicious criminal activity immediately to the police on 10111 or alert the nearest security offices. Special messages on congratulations. Cabinet extended its congratulations and well wishes to President Ramaphosa on being bestowed with the Doctorate Honours Causa from Cheikh Anta Diop University in Dakar, Senegal, which is recognized as one of Africa's and the world's preeminent universities. 29 years ago, former President Nelson Mandela was awarded the same doctorate at a time when our nation was not yet free. It is fitting that President Ramaphosa has been awarded this prestigious honor in the year that we commemorate the 25th anniversary of our Constitution being signed into law. On the Blitzborg for triumphing twice in 2 weekends during the prestigious Dubai Sevens Rugby Tournament. Indeed, they showed us a lot of sparks. They became such an inspiration, as they have done for many years. On the condolences, Cabinet expressed condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Comrade Ismail Ibrahim at an age of 84, the former Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. Comrade EB, as he was affectionately known to his friends and comrades, dedicated his life to the struggle for democracy and freedom and worked steadfastly to build a better South Africa for all. Ambassador Lindiwe Mabuza at 83, the veteran diplomat, poet, feminist, and struggle icon who served in several diplomatic postings. In 2014, she received the Order of Ikamanga in silver for her excellent contribution to mobilizing the use of arts and application of creativity for democracy, displaying that cultural activism played a significant role in achieving democracy. On the appointments, ladies and gentlemen, you will read for yourselves, and thank you for listening.
Thanks. And thank you very much, Minister. At this point, we'll invite questions. Thank you, Pelat.
Thank you very much. My name is Pelane Kafadi. I'm from Newsroom Africa. A few questions for the Minister. The first one here is when is the President really likely to address the nation in relation to the response to the increasing COVID-19? Is there a meeting perhaps of the NCCC as well scheduled urgently as the Omicron variant seems to be taking its grip on the country? Second question is, what are some of those trade agreements nations trip? Mandatory vaccines, any recommendations or progress report made by the committee that was established to look into this mandatory vaccinations? And the last one is, unemployment is at its highest. Mandatory vaccines, any recommendations or progress report which was brought to the cabinet in relations to that particular case, the mandatory vaccinations. There is that committee that was established. Has it brought about some progress report or recommendations? And the last question is, unemployment at its highest. 2 weeks ago we learned from the quarterly labor survey, and 2 days ago we learned about the 1.5 drop in the GDP. So cabinet there, what are the urgent interventions in regard to that? Thank you.
That's all we are paying. Okay.
UFM. Last month, President indicated that government has started a process to amend health regulation.
Just say again. Minister didn't hear you.
Okay. Formerly Momotu Moholo, UFM. Last month, the President indicated that government has started a process to amend health regulations so that it can review the use of the Disaster Management Act to manage its response to the pandemic and ultimately lifting the national state of disaster. How far are you with that process? May you please give us timeframes as to how long you are planning to keep the country on national state of disaster? And when you say you're going to amend the health regulations, please outline what that entails.
Thank you. Isaac.
Abogile Tumago, SABC News. Just on the last family meeting we had, President Ramaphosa did make mention of the fact that his deputy, Didi Mabuza, will foresee a possibility where we can look at the mandatory vaccine and the progress in as far as that is concerned. And then number two, we've recently seen, as in yesterday, that Mabuza Mabula, the Speaker of Parliament, has expressed concern over the fact that some MPs, including those who represent the ANC in the National Assembly, may have missed the deadline to actually declare their financial interests. Has the cabinet spoken about that? Mr. Kugubele actually in that list as well. You didn't declare Mshegas. Thank you.
Do you want us to take the other ones, Minister, or you want to respond first? There's the one online.
There's a lot here.
Yeah.
Especially with Abogile. Thank you. We call it a family day, family meeting. It's difficult to have a specific date until the NCCC have a meeting. It's based on their assessment from the Medical Advice Council to decide, based on what is happening, whether indeed the family day is necessary or not. Remember, what we are monitoring now on this vaccine is the clinical manifestations, because the nature of the clinical manifestation indicate the possible threat to hospital load. Because if it translates to manifestations clinically that actually make people very sick to need admission in hospital, the load becomes under pressure. So far, the reports we are getting is that there is no red flag in that. Remember, the other issue that we are trying to think about carefully, that's why vaccination has become so important, is to live with this corona. Because you need to find a balance between the livelihood and lives, because these are two sides of the same coin. If you don't strike a balance between the two, once the other one collapses, there's no life. There are two sides of the same coin, and that coin is life. When one of them collapse, the life collapse. Whether it's the one of the livelihoods or whether it's the lives, you always at all material times to act in a manner that properly balance the two. As we sit now, we all know now it's no longer a dispute. The damage the restriction caused last year, level 5 and so on. Thousands of business that stop, a number of jobs that have been lost, and the uncertainty that has been created by Corona, that people don't know when are we going to lock down or not. The attitude the government is adopting is find the best possible way of navigating whilst ensuring that the initiatives for livelihood are intensified, ensuring that the economy moves. On the mandatory vaccine, no recommendations were tabled, and all we are looking at is the entire information on the implications of the mandatory stuff. You see, to say it safely, it's so clear to a number of us that you need a policy that encourages vaccination, and you need a policy that discourages cynicism towards vaccine. What type of policy in that will actually depend on the findings we have as we assess that situation. On the unemployment, listen, as you know that before COVID, our economy was already limping, and it went worse during COVID. The president on, is it 2018, October 15, if I'm right, 2020, I think, October 15, announced the recovery plan to intervene in this matter. There are certain problems that would be, there are certain damages that will still show as effect of the past, of the past damage, as we try to intervene to change the situation. Economists analyzing very closely will give better stats on that. But having said that, our economic recovery is infrastructure-led. Some of you must have been with us, I think Pelani was part of that, in Musina, where we show a major infrastructure intervention, which was about 640 million there in Musina. There's a lot of these infrastructure interventions all over the country, and next year we're going to demonstrate to you. Because when you talk about structural constraints, we speak about all those things that make it difficult for private private sector to invest in our economy. One of them is the productive capacity, which depends on infrastructure. Infrastructure networks, meaning what? Mobility, information flow, availability of energy, and a number of those types of infrastructures, because they create conditions for a productive capacity. Those conditions make private sector to invest. And the other critical one, you heard the Minister of Finance on the MTBBS. He spoke about security. In this country, what we have to fight and fight successfully and send a clear message that we are prevailing over is crime, is violence, is instability. You know the damage caused by July. A lot of our people, out of anger, found themselves caught up in activities that were very suicidal. A number of people are suffering. I've gone to places like Mzindo in KZN, where people have destroyed ATMs, which were close to the old ladies where they sit, because those ATMs are no longer there, and they don't have money to travel to faraway centers. So then, two, having said that security, one of the critical things is to intensify information, which GCIS is trying to do, so that at all material times, when there are confusing threats in the country, our people are properly clarified on how to react to those so that they don't damage themselves. There's a series of other interventions, but I'm saying It's infrastructure-led. At the same time, we're dealing with structural reforms like your spectrum, water licensing, ensuring that water is available, energy is available, and affordable. That's the course we're taking, and reliable. So those are the interventions. Those interventions will ongo. We will not be discouraged by this disturbing, what we call, results. We know at the end of the day, the future of this country lies in the hands of the people of this country. So we're not going to look at this and cry and look back. I think I've dealt with that part. Review of health regulation. Khumulimo, am I right? Yes. I remember that surname, Khumulimo. Comrade Khumulimo. Yes. Health regulations. That process, ma'am, is ongoing. Because when you want to review regulations, again, you must analyze the implications of that. So that process is ongoing, because the importance of that process, again, is to ensure that we intensify conditions that protect initiatives that ensure livelihood is sustained. So we'll come back to you when we are very clear exactly what is going to be done about that. Abongile, progress. You asked progress on something?
Mandatory.
On mandatory vaccine. No, I think I've already dealt with that question. On the declaration, I have not even been informed. You know, sometimes we're not in Parliament, we're in Cabinet. We landed yesterday. I didn't hear that information. It's something that we have to deal with, because it's quite a matter that must be viewed seriously, especially when we deal with issues of corruption. MPs must disclose. That's why the issue of lifestyle audit and a number of these things are very important. We want to send a message that our government is led by people who can be trusted. It includes me. If I've been listed there, it means I've got a lot to account for. Thank you very much.
Can I just, before I take the others, correct or respond on behalf of the Minister? I have been reliably informed that the Minister did submit all his declaration and on time. So it's on record, Minister. Your office has confirmed that. So there might have been some wrong reconciliation in Parliament, but we can confirm that the Minister did submit. Can we take Nonceba's questions?
Mandatory vaccines have been covered in the previous question, in the previous round. The one question is from Sophie Mugana from the SABC. She's asking, why is President Cyril Ramaphosa not going to participate during the Democracy Summit that will be hosted by President Joe Biden later today? There's also a question from Spelele Lula, asking, since a lot of companies are enforcing mandatory vaccines in the workplace in line with the Occupational Health and Safety Act, what is government's position, it's actually already been covered, around the mandatory vaccines? Then we have a few more other questions, DG. The one is from Suman Naidu, who's a freelance journalist, is asking, can the Minister clarify if the issue of the Cape Independence, which again has been in the spotlight during the election period, and has this been discussed by Cabinet or the President? The issues related to why is it not taken serious, where citizens have been campaigning for the province to become a republic and they are arguing for self-determination.
Can you start on question first?
Yes. So, let me just come closer to the mic. The question is, can the Minister clarify if the question of the independence of the Cape to be a republic on its own has been discussed by Cabinet or with the President, since citizens have been campaigning for the province to be declared a republic, and they're arguing for self-determination. And they're also asking, on the other hand, those citizens who've been campaigning for it have been accused by some of treason. And why has national government not made a clear stance on this issue? And then we have a question from Mervyn Charles from News 24, asking there are growing concerns of protests and disruptions ahead of the memorial service of former President F.W. de Klerk. Has government implemented any additional security measures on the day for the memorial service? And what is government's message to those threatening to disrupt de Klerk's memorial service? Then there's a question as well from Asuman Naidu. Can the minister confirm the intention to make the state capture report public, whether there's an intention to make the report public once it has been submitted to the president? And then we have another question. From Nandika BX, who's also a freelance journalist, can the minister please clarify steps being taken to deal with the travel bans imposed on South Africa and other African countries?
Can you repeat that?
Can the minister clarify steps that South Africa is taking to deal with the issue of the various travel bans that have been imposed on South Africa?
Exactly.
Okay, should I pause there for now? I've got more.
Yeah. Pause. You want to take more questions? Or you want to take more?
Can we take more?
Yes.
All right.
I think we will look first.
All right. Then Arthur from Heart FM is asking, can Minister confirm if Cabinet had talks about the retrenchments expected to take place at Petro SA? And then Khawkhele from UFM is asking, are you able to guarantee anxious South Africans that there will not be any hard lockdown even if the COVID-19 infections rise? It's my impression that the President traveled with a fairly large contingent to West Africa, including half of cabinet. How many people went on this trip, including their various aides? How does government justify flying around so many people when majority of South Africans are struggling with basics? And the last part of the question is, a significant number of South Africans took exception to the videos of the president and ministers dancing while on the trip, and I would like you to take this opportunity to take them into confidence that this was not just a jamboree, but real work being done by government as led by the president and his team. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director. It's difficult for me to comment on the President not participating, because I am yet to confirm whether he's participating or not participating. But having said all that, you must know the difficulty that is behind our relationships now, which we have to manage. We need a sustainable and a productive relationship with the developed countries for known reasons. For this country and its constitution is a champion of world peace, world prosperity. So interacting with those countries remains the priority to us. So Whether then the president is participating or not is a matter we need to follow up. I am not in a position now to comment. But I've said you must understand the difficulties of the developed countries that simply jumped. It was painful when the president dealt with this matter in Senegal, where, for instance, calls from the developed country would have been, we heard you guys have got Omicron, we're banning you, full stop. And then African leaders calling and say, listen, we've heard of this, we are going to work with you. And those are different, what to call relationships. But the attitude of our constitution dictates a positive nation that must always want to contribute in solutions, because without good relationships, there is no productivity in the world of humanity. That's the general answer I would give there, but whether the president is participating or not is a matter we'll have to attend to. I just want to come back again, although we dealt with this question. Let's find a balance, I want to repeat this, between livelihoods and lives, saving lives. You see, if we say to companies, please invest in our country, we've told South Africans how fiscally constrained are we in this country, how the cost of debt is actually encroaching on the social expenditure, more than 200 billion a year, and how it is difficult to access loans because of that situation, ratings and everything else, because we are in a world which is not our own exclusive ownership. It's a world of many nations, and whose activity and lives impact positively and negatively on ours. It's always important to make sure that we conduct ourselves in a very smart way. The point I'm making is, this again, when firms want vaccination, those firms positively want to assist this country. Other firms which did not care about this country would not be interested in vaccination. They want to make sure that they participate in this country economically in a manner that absorbs those who are unemployed, in a manner that gives them opportunity to pay to our tax so that we've got revenue to develop those who are poor. So I'm saying, let's take this with positive attitude. If vaccine doesn't kill you, but there's more benefits when you take it for your country, for your children and friends and your country, why must it be difficult? We're making this appeal to our people. Let's come to the independents who are campaigning for independent Cape. I think for more than 300 years, South Africans campaigned for a single South Africa. And they have achieved that. The Western Cape in its majority has been part of that. The nation in its majority, across colors, people agreed on this constitution of a single South Africa. The cabinet didn't discuss this matter, but my biggest advice is that whilst people have got a freedom of expression, my biggest advice to them is that 300 years of divisions and the consequences it has on South Africans must be a great lesson that division is a very huge risk to the future of this country. People must know the future of this country lies in us nationally cohesive, nationally united, nationally collaborative, so that we are productive. A divided South Africa is a disaster. 300 years has shown. My nice advice here, we are a constitutional country, we are a single country. We believe that's the way to go. We'll watch development as they occur, but I cannot imagine South Africa voting for a divided South Africa again, whilst people continue to be free to express their views. Let me tell you this. There's nothing wrong in people saying you want your independent country in South Africa. We want you to say that because the constitution of this country made a choice, either shutting up people or engaging with them for proper leadership. Because once you shut up people, you don't know what their feelings are, you don't know what they want, you don't know what to provide. But if you allow them to speak, it gives you an opportunity to make effective leadership. My advice to them, a divided South Africa has there its consequences to show. That's the little I can say about this matter. And I would advise against other people who want to hurt people who express their views, because Constitution encourages us to engage them. Again, let's come to the FWD clerk issue, which is still being decided, being worked on. There's a supposed memorial on Sunday. I think this has become a very tricky debate in our country. But what I want to state here is that our forebears fought against division, whether it's based on tribe, whether it's based on race, and they always committed that those who are for unity are on our side. Those who are against unity are our enemies. Whoever was our enemy before and took an initiative to be part of a united South Africa, my understanding of the mission of our forebears, that one has become part of us. Because we are serious when we say we are against division, when we say we are against racism. Those who become part of a South Africa that affiliates to this constitution should be on our side and will continue differing on the path of constitutional democracy, on the modalities on how to pursue its freedoms. But as long as we are bound by the same constitution, we are family of a single nation. In that instance, it would be unfortunate if we exclude F.W. de Klerk. My view is very simple. If he took this initiative to be part of the process of negotiations, made some mistakes in the process after negotiations, left GNU, but the major thing he did, together with our leaders, was to agree on a process of ensuring that there's a constitution in this country which gives our people their freedom, even this freedom to march and do everything. It's always useful when we are leaders to actually relate with one another on the positive issues that we contribute in building a nation, to undermine the weaknesses of one another that undermine the big picture that we want to become. That's a bigger sort of response I want to make to that. Disruptions, we'll have to stop them, because if they are illegal, they will have to be stopped. If they are legal, it means there's a protest, you apply, you do all those things, but whatever is illegal around that event is going to be dealt with in terms of the law. But we're advising our people, we agreed to forgive one another, and forgiving, by the way, is not a sign of cowardice. It's a sign of strength, because you want to engage. Cowards don't want to engage, because their weaknesses will be exposed. I want to repeat this. Cowards don't like to engage, because their character and weaknesses get exposed. But when there's peaceful environment, the great thinkers, people with character, who know that they have got better things to contribute in this country, do engage. And we opted to engage. That's why our constitution is encouraging us to do that. State capture, it will be made public. I do not know when. President will receive it, he will determine the date. We don't have a choice, by the way. Our constitution is for transparency, accountability, and open democracy. And those principles will always prevail. African steps taken on the barriers. What Africa, in my view, is trying to do is to bring sanity in the minds of all those who respond in an alarming way to pronouncements of the scientific outcomes. You know, sometimes Africa has been undermined for a long time. It's difficult to believe that something brilliant can come from Africa. If it comes, they say, no, it's a strange thing, it's myth. I guess that's the attitude. But however, the calm and sober decision by African countries is an attempt to engage the developed world on the inadvisability of the barriers to thus far. On the Petro SA retrenchment, I haven't heard anything. We'll follow that up. Can you guarantee that there will be no lockdown? Who can't do that? You know, if you read, we said we'll follow science. We'll follow objective reality. We'll respond to circumstances. A surviving nation is an adaptive nation. There's no other way. You cannot say there will be no lockdown when you don't know what the situation will be. You remember I said, our life has got two sides, livelihood and saving lives. Always, whether we survive is the balance that is required at all material times that keeps us alive in a bigger way. So it depends, and we hope not, and we wish not. I repeat this, we don't want those lockdowns to come, but we cannot say they will never come. How many people in the trip cost implications? Well, let me tell you this. The South African economy is highly dependent on the international trade for a number of reasons. We still have a long way to have a very strong economy that improves its dependence on the international what we call space. We're highly dependent on the international space. If the people you are worried about that are going to be hungry and so on, it will be famine if we do not interact with these countries. For instance, no less than 50% of our oil comes from Africa. That is an advantage we must look after and even improve, so that we stop depending extra-continental with regard to a major resource like what we call like oil. The intra-Africa free trade is trying to improve the fact that only 3% of our trade is taking place amongst African countries. That's an embarrassment, that's a disgrace, because we dig our raw materials and actually ship them to America, to Britain, to beneficiate them and come back many times costly for us to be able to cope. All these trips are ensuring that we tap the value that lies in us working together. And it will not happen if we're just sitting at home. How we want to work with Nigeria, we must sit with them and talk about that. How we want to work with Ghana, we must sit with them and talk with that. There must be certain rules of relationship that we must agree upon so that there's a trade flow that is guaranteed short, medium, and long term. So this trip cannot be compared to that. Thank you very much. All I can say about the video of the president dancing, we take note of that concern. We think it's a matter that we'll attend to. I don't want to take it further than that. The point is, I know if we were to ask the president, he will say we must wear a mask. And then we take note of that concern. I don't want to take it beyond that. Thank you very much.
I hope you'll say there's no more questions, because we've done 2 rounds and we normally...
Just 2 more.
2, is it fine, Minister? Okay. Okay.
Yes, someone missed the minister's response on the mandatory vaccine issue, which was...
I've lost it. That it was opening words.
Just maybe reiterate that.
Just say it again, Minister. I missed you.
Opening words.
Yes, I'm saying if you can just perhaps reiterate the response on the mandatory vaccines issue. I know it was addressed earlier on. And then Tili Madia from Eyewitness News is asking, how far along is the expert panel looking into the July unrest?
How far?
How far is the expert panel on the July unrest?
Okay.
How far along is the expert panel looking into the July unrest? And when can the country expect to hear from the President where the lapses were in the security cluster's responses and plans to mitigate that going forward? And Paul Fukiato from Bloomberg is asking, has a special cabinet meeting been called for this Sunday?
Can you repeat that?
Has a special cabinet meeting been called for this Sunday?
For the Sunday?
This coming Sunday. That's the question.
I think that's about it.
Well, I wish my job was to speak about the mandatory vaccine every day, all the time. Right? And I want to repeat, I'll be very short now. The biggest threat to our country now is an economy in trouble. And the smart approach that is generally understood is to live as smart as we can, to do everything that do not interrupt the economic recovery. Right? A sick person with food on the tummy, with sugar in your system, and a lot of dietary requirements is in a better position to deal with a sick health. But there's a degree of sickness which no matter what food do you have, you may not be able to deal with. That's the balance we're speaking about. And we're saying now, the economic damage is so huge that all hands on the deck, on the line of economic recovery. And I want to repeat what I said about a firm. If a firm says to you, let's use vaccine, unless you can go to your doctor and your doctor shows you whether it kills you or not, your doctor can advise you. But if it doesn't kill you, it doesn't harm you, you stand a chance by vaccinating and make a huge contribution in intensifying the economic recovery, without which this country is not going to get anywhere. And we can speak about this point, speak and speak again. And from Tsidi Madia on the expert panel, maybe it's a matter we're supposed to have checked before we come here. All we know is that that team is busy deep in their work as we speak. We don't know when are they going to come, but I have no doubt the sooner the better, because the underlying factors which led to that violence must be arrested with immediate effect, because you don't want to actually suffer that damage again.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think we are done unless there's somebody who's really dying, or I think you've been very clear, and thank you very much, Minister. We adjourn. Thanks.
Thank you very much, guys. Happy Christmas.
Plan is asking for a live.
No, it's fine. It's okay. Popular is an empty list. Let's discuss it after this.
How are you doing?
Where do you want to arrest me? Where do you want to arrest me?
Where do you want to arrest the minister?
By the way, you are
Give us 1 second.
So we'll do it after they're done.
Okay, sure. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Can you get my phone here?
1,
The big one. The big one. The big one. No, no, that's a small one.
One, two, 1, 2.